don't know what he's up to. He's picking me like chicken, shucking me like corn, stewing me like an ice.
I don't do sit-ups. I don't do chin-ups. I don't do nothing but get up through them guts with my Johnson, bro. The hell is you talking about, bitch? Anybody, I'll let all y'all know. My exercise is up to them thighs, bro. Believe that, bro.
Here's our Triple B and JOEB, and the Triple B, baby, Triple B and JOEB, rock, cock, and Joe Morelli. Triple B and JOEB, and the Triple B, baby, Triple B and JOEB, rock, cock, and Joe Morelli. We're coming in, only seeking the truth about JFK. It's the Long Coming Podcast crew. Tell 'em, Joe, here we go.
And here we go. What's up, everybody? Hopefully, neither one of us are muted this week as we start off the show. Welcome to episode number 325. If you see the police, Joe, Warner brother. Okay?
Yeah.
A brother's got to know, you know?
For sure.
This week, we're going to be talking about the three black gentlemen that were on the fifth floor at the time of the assassination, and their twisting tale of different stories and various other things that I promise we're going to get into. But before we do, let's welcome everybody in here, Joe. They started early. The line formed early, but
We love to see it.
we love to see it for sure. Seen some familiar names we haven't seen in a while. Welcome, Paul. Mr. Paul Vine's in the house. Howdy, howdy. Zendar is up in the house.
Hey, Paul.
Digging
Zendar.
Lee's Chicken up in Michigan. Apparently that's a thing. Claude and Aunt Udine are in the house. Jack is in the house. What's up, Jack? Bungled.
Bungle.
Hello, Scott. Scott is in the house. Hello, Scott. Alpha 66, Big Mike. And also our condolences out to Big Mike on the passing of his uncle. Our prayers are with you, my friend. Chris Burton is in the house. That's a new one. Hey, Chris. You
Colleen.
fell asleep to it last week. Well, that's not really a compliment, Chris. You know, I'd like to think that our voices are a little bit more brisk and brash than like Jim DiEugenio's. Like I used to fall asleep listening to him talk.
Yeah.
But I feel you.
Well, I don't think it's a bad thing, actually. And I think Chris is from the United Kingdom, if I remember correctly. And sometimes I need to like listen to things, whether it's true crime or JFK things, so my mind moves, so I get more tired and I can go to bed. Like I don't know if it's my
all I
ADHD.
hear is excuses, Joe. Excuses.
I'm just saying I do it myself. So
Speaking of those across the pond, Sally is up in the house. What's up, Sally?
I think so.
Scottish Sally. I'm just joking, Sally. Don't get all pissy with me. Irish Sally. James is in the house. What's up, James? Trey, of course, is in the house. We're picking him like chicken. South to West is in the house.
Hey, South to West.
Colleen, our rocket queen, our resident rocket queen, is in the house, Joe. Welcome back, Colleen.
Colleen.
Our buddy Greg Stewart. What's up, Greg?
Cat Daddy Steve in the house.
Yeah. Man, I love this.
Ashley Wood. We got a full house.
Oh, Tiny Dancer sliding in at the last minute. Bueno Seta, Joe. What is that little thing? I don't know what that means. Is that a pi symbol? The hell is that?
She'll have to explain it.
Yeah, you need to explain yourself, Tiny Dancer. Paul's in the house. What's up, Paul? having trouble keeping up with everybody here, Joe.
Okay.
They keep sliding in on me.
It's the place to be on a Friday night if you want to talk JFK. That is for sure.
I see you, Sally.
Gregory Stewart, I think, if you haven't seen him. Yes.
I did see Greg. I said, "What's up?" to my
Yes.
brother, Greg Stewart, the world traveler. He's always all over the damn place, going to many, many shows that we probably wish we were at, Joe. But that's all right. I'm glad Greg gets to experience it.
Whoa.
Good life.
We have a new spook level member, and Zendar 61.
Well, thank you, Zendar. That's awesome. Appreciate it.
Yes. We appreciate your support.
I would say appreciate it, brother, but I'm not. I'm not going to assume your gender identity.
Yes, you don't want to misgender.
I'm guessing. Let's see. Do we miss Garden and Gun somewhere? Are they here?
I saw her earlier in the live comments. I actually think she was the first comment, but I'm sure she will pop in. If not, or maybe I missed her. I'm not sure. Someone said Garden and Gun so we did.
Well, welcome in. We may have missed you, and anybody else that we missed, we apologize.
Boom.
Y'all keep flying in here like doves on the white snow.
Yes. We appreciate your timing, strategic timing.
Yes, for sure. All right, Joe. Let's quit wasting everybody's time and get right into the meat of the show, sir.
Yeah, before we do, Trey had a comment earlier. I know. He said, we got into a great discussion on chicken wings on our members only. And we did. We were debating the different chicken wing kind of fast food places in relation to
like Wingstop or Buffalo Wild Wings or
churches, which I had no idea what they were. And you were like, oh my God.
Well, that's not wings. That's fried chicken, bro.
Okay, fried chicken. I'm sorry.
They might have wings too, but obviously they got that whole gamut of the chicken,
Yes.
The breasts, the thighs.
We did a deep dive on the chicken. And,
the juicy bits.
Yes. If you are a member, you will definitely be able to, or covert operator, super spy, you'll be able to listen back on that. It was a spicy conversation, pun intended.
Even more spicy if you throw a little Silk City up on that shit. You know what I'm saying?
I set you up for that.
If you want to be like your boys, go get some Silk City in your life. You won't regret it. All right, so we're going to be talking about, pardon moi, Harold Norman, Charles Gibbons, Junior Jarman, and Bonnie Ray Williams, mainly this evening. Now, you may ask why I include Charles Gibbons is because while not in this picture, Joe, of folks on the 5th floor, you can see there's one at each of the open windows below the 6th floor alleged sniper window. There's one brother in each window that's open. Okay, and these are Harold Norman, Junior Jarman, and Bonnie Ray Williams. I believe Bonnie Ray Williams is in the second from the right, and I'm not sure which is which on the either end, but
I think the left is
Norman.
The left might actually be Bonnie Ray. Hold on.
No, he's in the second one. I know that for sure. Anyway.
Oh, yeah, he's in the second. I'm sorry. They look very similar.
What are you trying to say, Joe? All black guys are the same? Come on, man.
I know I set myself up for that. When you see
damn.
When you see both of them, you'll
here's a little bit more close up of the three fellas we're going to be talking about here. This is Bonnie Ray, Harold in the middle, and Junior on the right. Okay.
Yep. And a big age discrepancy of those folks that we'll get into.
Yes. All right. So I'm going to kick it off with Harold Norman. Okay. And then we'll bounce it to Joe. And then he's going to bounce the ball back to me. And then I'm going to bounce it back to Joe. And then we're going to cap off this fantastic show that I already know it's going to be with a little surprise for you folks.
Really?
Yeah. You remember what I played you at the end of the last show?
I do. Yeah.
Yeah. No, we're going to get into that a little bit because it pertains to these guys' HSDA testimony. But we'll get there. I promise. Okay. The interesting thing about Harold Norman, okay, and I'm sure Joe will get into this, but for whatever reason, Bonnie Ray Williams was arrested, okay, on November 22nd, 1963. We have pictures of him getting put in the back of the cop car, right, alongside Danny Arce. We saw all this, you know, on the Arce episode. Okay. So for whatever reason, after the assassination, Bonnie Ray Williams was arrested, but not Norman, not Jarman. Okay. Givens never reported back for roll call after the assassination. He just said, you know, fuck it, I'm not going back to work. You know what I mean?
Well, he got arrested too.
Huh?
He got arrested too, as we'll get into.
Okay. Yeah, but I'm saying he wasn't the only one missing from the alleged roll call. You know? Right. They said, you know, well, Oswald is the only guy missing. I'm missing a man. You remember truly said that. Yep. But back to Harold Dean Norman. Okay. Now, what's interesting is I couldn't find any documents, Joe. I couldn't find like any same day affidavits for the DPD or the sheriff. The earliest document that I can find for Harold Norman is from November 26th, and it's an FBI interview. So why they didn't take this guy down to the station to get a statement, I don't know. Maybe he dipped out on him and they had to track him down. But this is the first contact report that I have, and it's an FBI report from, like I said, November 26th. So Harold Dean Norman, employed as a shipping clerk at the school book depository, blah, 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 blah. He and fellow employees, Junior Jarman and Bonnie Ray Williams, were watching the presidential motorcade from the windows on the 5th floor of the school book depository building. He stated that about the time the car in which the president was riding turned onto the Elm Street, he heard a shot. He said he thought the shot had been fired from the floor directly above him. He further stated at that time he stuck his head from the window and looked up toward the roof, but could see nothing because small particles of dirt were falling from above him into his eyes. He stated 2 additional shots were fired after he had pulled his head back in from the window. So there must have been a pretty good pause between the first and second shot. If you hear a first shot and you reach your head out to try to look and you get a bunch of dirt and shit in your eyes and then you pull back in, then the second shot rips off. Either that or he's a very quick head mover. You know what I mean? Like, you know. Yep. He stated he could see people walking toward the other end of the building. He, Jarman, and Williams ran to the other end of the room and looked out the windows there. He stated he saw nothing and then returned to the window from which he had previously been looking. Now, they all say some form of this, right? That after the shots, they ran to the west end of the building.
The knoll
right?
side.
The knoll side of the building where there's windows there that look out into the railroad yard, because he said that's where everybody was going. Now, why would you do that if you distinctly heard a rifle shot and then 2 more directly above your head? Does that make any sense to anybody?
No, if you had some pebbles or whatever cement little pieces fall on you, you'd be looking up. You wouldn't be following the crowd. I think that's what they said, the commotion on the knoll side, which is why they went over there.
Yeah, but he said he distinctly heard a shot coming from above.
No, I know. I'm agreeing. It makes no sense.
Yeah.
And just want to
Norman.
say hi, Roger. Roger is in the house.
Oh, what's up,
brother?
Roger?
Yes.
Lee
Good evening,
Harold
sir.
Oswald in the house.
Yes.
Our resident music man.
Yes.
Norman stated that he knew Lee Harvey Oswald as a fellow employee and only talked to him when work required him to. He stated he does not recall Oswald ever having visitors at the school book depository or ever associating with anyone employed there.
And that's going to be consistent, at least with the two guys I'm covering. They said pretty much the same thing, kept to himself. And
yeah,
that's consistent with Oswald's character as we've been studying it over the past
But
year.
as we'll also get into when we get to Jarman, when Oswald was in custody, he claimed that he ate lunch in the domino room with two black guys. One of them was named Junior. Okay?
Mhm.
But we'll get there, I promise.
Yeah.
He further stated he cannot recall whether he saw Oswald at the school book depository at all on Friday, November 22, 1963. Which is funny. I mean, come on, bro. Seriously?
Mhm.
But okay. So the next contact report we have is from the Secret Service. And this is from December 4th. Okay. I, Harold Norman, wish to make the following statement to Special Agent William Carter and Arthur Blair, United States Secret Service. I am 25 and I live at Beulah Street, Dallas, Texas. I do not have a telephone at my residence. I have been employed as an order filler at the school book depository for 3 years at this point. I was acquainted with Lee Oswald during the time that he was employed at this company, but I never did get to know him well. I have spoken to him briefly just to say hello or in connection with my work, but I never carried on any conversations with him. He did not mix with the employees and did not appear to want to make friends with me or any of the others. I never saw him at any time other than in the building at work. On November 22nd, 1963, to the best of my memory, the last time I saw him was about 10 a.m. when we were working on the first floor of the building. I did not speak to him at that time. Now, 2 weeks prior to this, when he talked to the FBI, he said he didn't see Oswald anywhere that day on November 22nd, 1963. Now, suddenly, he's remembering that it was about 10 o'clock that he saw him on the first floor. Very specific. Okay? Around 12:15 p.m. I'm sorry, it's very faded on this goddamn paper. On this same day, 12:15, after I had eaten my lunch, I went to the 5th floor of the building. Now, that's implying that he did not eat his lunch on the 5th floor, that he was elsewhere, like maybe in the domino room.
Yeah. With
his buddy Junior and another guy that he probably doesn't want to say that he was eating lunch with. But we'll get there. Bonnie Ray Williams and James Jarman, who also work at this building, went with me. Okay. Now, this is important because this is where their statements kind of don't match up, at least with Bonnie Ray. But Joe can get more into that. We took a position in the southeast corner of the building on the 5th floor, and I was looking out the window, which is closest to the east end of the building overlooking Elm Street. Okay, so Norman was in the window all the way on the right under Oswald, allegedly, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Just after the president passed by, I heard a shot, and several seconds later, I heard 2 more shots. I knew that the shots had come from directly above me, and I could hear the expended cartridges falling to the floor. Now, there's some details that he's leaving out here, or that he left out of his initial FBI report. And that's the fact that he heard cartridges, right, hitting the floor. And he also doesn't mention sticking his head out the window in this report.
Yeah.
I could also hear the bolt action of the rifle, which he did not mention in the FBI report. All right. So we're picking up more details here. Okay. 2 weeks later.
Yeah. And that's going to be a pattern as we go through these gentlemen here.
Yeah. He said, I also saw some dust fall from the ceiling of the 5th floor, and I felt sure that whoever had fired the shots was directly above me. I saw all the people down the street turn toward the west side of the building, so I went to that side with Williams and Jarman and looked out the west side windows. We discussed the shots and where they had come from and decided to go downstairs. Okay. You know, fuck going upstairs and seeing who's up there shooting, right? They're going to go downstairs. We walked down the stairs to the 1st floor. Apparently, they did not take an elevator. To the 1st floor. Did not see anyone else on the stairway when we went down. From the time of the shots until we started down was about 5 minutes. So they started going down the steps 5 minutes after the shots, according to their rough time estimate.
Right. 12:35-ish.
Right. And they saw nobody on the stairs at all at that time. Not a surprise, but apparently Jack Doherty was on the 5th floor, right? But he didn't see these 3 guys, despite this, which cracks me up. Hold on. Let's see. Yeah. Okay. So this is a picture of the 5th floor. All right. There's not a whole lot of shit on the floors.
Right.
So how you couldn't see anybody else on the 5th floor is insane to me, because it's a lot of empty space. I mean, look at this one. This is how they were sitting, kneeling down on their knees, looking out the window. Okay.
Yep.
And this one. This is not their position
originally,
but you know, I think it shows kind of the boxes. And if there was another person on this floor, I mean, you had to see these 3 guys. I mean, they're all spread out, but Jack Doherty says he didn't see anybody, and they said that they never saw him or heard the elevator. So I don't know what the hell's going on with that. But then the next time we hear from Norman, it is, let's see. A Secret Service report of the investigation of employees of the Texas School Book Depository, and mysteriously, I'm sorry, this is from February 24th, 64. They're discussing the fact that Harold Norman left his job, his place of employment at the School Book Depository, effective January 1st, 1964. So, despite having been employed there for 3 years, Joe, suddenly there's all this shit going on. So, he quits.
Huh. I did not know that.
Yeah. Let me get to the juicy bit. If there is one. Here it is. Investigation was conducted on February 25th at Norman's present place of employment, which was the Foxborough Company on Northwest Highway in Dallas. Investigation indicated that Norman started working at the Foxborough Company on January 2nd for wages of $260 a month, which ain't too shabby, I think.
No,
right?
times that by 10. I mean, at least it's close to $3,000 a month.
Yeah, let me do a little quick math. How much?
You said $260 a month. I
Yeah.
multiplied that by 10 and added a little.
Why would you multiply it by 10?
Because that's what the inflation rate conversion that the easy.
Oh, I got you.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I think in finance terms in my head, so I'm trying to like. But
So
yeah,
we knew
so
Oswald was making $1.25 an hour times 8 hours in a day. That's $10 a day. That's $50 a week. So that's $200 a month.
yeah,
And he had
it's
just got hired.
yeah, it's like $12.50 an hour today. Easy math,
Yeah.
kind of like minimum wage almost.
I know. I'm just trying to compare it to a monthly deal. So
Sorry.
that's $10 a day, 50. Yeah, so he was making $200 a month. And Norman left his job that he'd been at for 3 years to go make $260 a month. Okay. Yeah. That's the ticket.
Wait, he left the TSPD January 1st, 64 to make $60 more a month as compared to the
Well,
TSPD.
what I'm saying is they hired Oswald as a temporary worker at $1.25.
Right.
This dude had been there 3 years. I'm sure he was making more than $1.25 an hour.
You would think.
So, but
Okay.
Norman was hired to replace a previous porter who had died of a heart attack on December 27th, 1963. Further investigation that Norman does not own an automobile, that he is he lives in a Negro housing project and would not be commensurate with any sudden affluence on the part of Norman. Since Norman left the employ of the school book depository prior to January 64, and also due to the fact there's no indication that he has shown evidence of undue affluence, he has not been interviewed. An interview of Norman will be conducted if requested by the chief's office. This phase of the investigation is closed. A tickler system will be set up relative to periodic checks, RE employees leaving their positions at the school book depository or coming into any undue affluence as part of any employment at the school book depository. Okay, so they were checking to make sure this dude didn't suddenly come into a bunch of money because for whatever reason, despite the fact that Oswald was already arrested for the crime and killed already, why are they worried about anybody else? In February of 64.
Leverage is my only guess.
Leverage for what?
For their testimonies to the Warren Commission. No, I don't.
Secret Service care.
I'm saying it. As we'll get into, these 4 African American gentlemen might have been easily pressured to change their statements. So any part of that could have been related to that pressure. I'm not saying that specifically is, but yeah.
I don't know. Next, we hear from. This is another. Looks like FBI document from March 18th, 1964, where he's making another statement to the FBI. I, Harold Dean Norman, make the following free and voluntary statement to Raymond Fox and J. Hale McMenamin, who have identified themselves to me as special agents of the FBI. I'm a male Negro born July 6, 1938 at Clarksville, Texas. I currently reside at 4858 Beulah Street in Dallas, Texas. On November 22nd, 1963, I was on the 5th floor of the school book depository building where I was employed at that time. At about 12:10 or 12:20, I was with James Jarman and Bonnie Ray Williams watching the motorcade bearing President John F. Kennedy past the school book depository when I heard 3 shots fired from, I believe, now it's I think, the floor directly above me. At this time, I did not see Lee Harvey Oswald, and during the morning of November 22nd, 1963, I didn't see no strangers in the building. I left the building on November 22nd at about 2 p.m. With regard to James Jarman and Bonnie Ray, I knew them to be employees at the school book depository, but do not know their residence addresses. I've read this statement off this and one other page, and it is true and correct. Signed, Harold Dean Norman. Blah, 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 right? Now, this is interesting. So this is for the Warren Commission. And this is to J. Lee Rankin from David Beelan. It concerns Harold Norman. This is September 19th, 64. So we've jumped significantly more in time. And I believe at this point, the Warren Commission had already, if not already, very closely released their findings, right?
Yeah. I think they were all interviewed in April 64. So like 6 months after. Yeah.
And it says, subject, empty cartridge case experiments at the school book depository building. Harold Norman, a TSBD employee who was watching the motorcade, in an early FBI interview claimed that on November 22nd, he heard the sound of bolt-action rifle and the sound of the empty cartridge dropping on the floor above him. And this is a wrong statement. That was from a Secret Service document, not an FBI document. The FBI document didn't say anything about either one of those things. Unless they purposely left it out. I don't know. Anywho, to test the credibility of this witness, an experiment was conducted on March 20th, 1964 at the building. I was stationed by the windows at the southeast corner of the 5th floor where Norman, Williams, and Jarman were. Mr. Ball was at the assassination window with Secret Service agent John Howlett, whom we had requested to provide a bolt-action rifle and a cartridge case from which to conduct the experiment. I distinctly heard the operation of the bolt as well as the sound from the dropping of the cartridge cases. The floor seemed to act as a sounding board for the cartridge cases as they hit. After the experiment, I went up to the 6th floor and discovered that the cases used were not empty shells, but were rather live ammunition. So, of course, a whole-ass bullet is going to make a way different noise than an empty shell.
Yeah.
On May 9th, 1964, I accompanied Senator Cooper, Mr. Dulles, and Mr. McCloy to Dallas and acted as a guide so that they might view the scene of the assassination and other relevant sites. At the time, another experiment was conducted using a bolt-action rifle and cartridge cases. The only difference was that at this time, actual empty cartridges cases were used. The sound of each of the 3 cases hitting the floor could be clearly heard and was very familiar to the sound made by the cartridge shells used in this experiment conducted on March 20th. These experiments were referred to in Chapter 3, pages 7, along with the experiments conducted on June 7th and September 6th. I do not have any personal knowledge of what kind of shells were used in the experiments conducted on June 7th and September 6th, for I was not present. I am satisfied in my own mind that the sound of empty cartridge cases could be readily heard, and that because of the similarity in sound between the falling of the empty cartridges and the live ammunition, the experiment on March 20th was a valid one. This is particularly true since at the time of the March 20th experiment, there was a train going over the triple overpass and also trucks in the street, which Norman advised us created greater noise than existed on November 22nd. However, I think that the record should somewhere show that the empty shells were not used in the March 20th experiment, and accordingly, I make this statement for the record. So, we don't know what kind of shells or bullets they used, just random ones. Does it make a difference? I don't know. Does a Mannlicher Carcano shell sound different than a 30-06 shell or a 50 cal shell hitting the floor? I don't know. Maybe. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's hard to tell the difference, and you could drop it from different heights. I mean, there's all a bunch of factors you could do to kind of mess with the experiment, right?
Yeah. So here's Harold Norman in an interview from, I believe it's 1964, talking to CBS News. Here we go.
We spoke first to this man, Harold Norman.
That particular morning, 3 or 4 of us were standing by the window, and Oswald came over, and he said, what's everybody looking at, and what's everybody excited about? And so we told him we were waiting on the president. So he just snurged up and walked away. You know.
Well, now, how many shots did you hear?
3.
In how long a period of time?
Oh, I'd say just about like that, boom, then clap, clap, boom, and clap, clap, boom. Something similar to that. Then I think about that time, Jarman said, somebody's shooting at the president. And I told Jarman, I said, I know it is. I said, because I can hear, they are above me, and I can hear the shots and everything. And I could even not hear the cartridges hitting the floor, after the shots had been fired. And so after the shots were fired, all the officers and everyone else seemed to think they came from by the track over by the underpass, because that's where everyone ran over the other way. But just like I've said, I've been hunting enough to know the sound of a rifle from a backfire firecracker, anything like the.
There. Where am I here?
So he doesn't mention at all that he, along with Jarman and Bonnie Ray Williams, ran to the knoll side of the 5th floor to kind of see what the commotion was about.
Well, that's not the interesting part to me. The interesting part is that he says that Oswald came up to them and asked them what they were doing. And they said they were waiting for the president to come by in a parade. Now, he didn't say where this occurred. I'm assuming it was on the 5th floor. Could have been on the 1st floor. I don't know. Makes sense if it was on the 1st floor. And I believe some might say that as we get a little bit more into this. But I'm going to hold off on Norman's HSCA testimony until the end, because part of it pertains to something else I want to talk about. But we'll get there, I promise. Nothing really crazy, too much crazy in there about the goings on of that day. It's just there's something else in his HSCA testimony that I want to address. But that's it for Mr. Norman. Joe, if you want to go ahead with whoever you're going to talk about now.
Oh, that would be Mr. Givens.
Mr. Givens.
Mr. Charles Douglas Givens. I know you love when I give the
Charles, I got a 20 in my pocket Givens. Yes, sir.
All right. And this is actually, before I start, this is part of the same interview of the 5th floor guys that you played with Norman.
I'm just going to eat some lunch, man.
I think I have it here.
You know what I'm saying, man?
Yeah. All right.
Mr. Gibbons saw Oswald here on the 6th floor.
Well, he was standing about the middle way of the building on the 6th floor.
So what was he doing there?
Well, he was just standing there looking with his orders in his hand.
And what did you say to him?
I just said, fella, it's lunchtime. You going downstairs? And he said, no. He said, close the gates on the elevator when you get out. Well, I was, kind of excited, want to see the parade. So when I got downstairs, I really forgot it. I just rushed on off and went on out to lunch.
This would be about what time?
Well, about 1 or 2 minutes after 12.
So the testimony from those who saw Oswald inside the book depository is consistent.
Not
Is it though?
not sure if it's consistent. uh, oh man, but of course that is what it would say. So let me bring up the.
And look, has anybody ever ejected a shell out of a Manley Carcano? I'm asking for a friend, because every shell that I've ever seen ejected out of a gun, okay, if he's crouched at the window, okay, most of these shells were found right under the fucking windowsill. Okay, that shell would have shot out of that that rifle. You know what I mean? And like at least 10 feet. I don't know. I've never ejected a cartridge from a Carcano, but every other shell that I've ever seen and I've gotten rid of, it goes flying. And on a wooden floor, it's going to be bouncing all over the place. Ping, 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 ping,
Yeah.
You don't just fall out of the rifle and go immediately straight down to the floor. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
I'm guessing. I've never shot a Carcano, but I'm guessing that there's some mechanism when you pull the bolt back, it ejects the shell, like kicks it out of there. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I could be wrong. If anybody's ever shot one in the comments, let me know. Gardening guns.
Yep. And I think I have a slide on Bonnie Ray talking about that and Jarman's comment on hearing the shells hit and the concrete or whatever fell on him. But yeah, I think so too, Jack. But I have a couple comments before I start. Scott Edwards, did anyone else corroborate the debris and the hair claim? We will get to that soon. Like Rob says, we promise.
Cat Daddy Steve said he shot one before and they jump out far away. That's what I thought. I figured that rifle would just kick them sons of bitches right out of the thing like 10 feet.
Okay. Thank you, Cat Daddy Steve. Chris said several witnesses saw two people in the 6th floor window. Yes, when we did whatever episode that was, when we went over some of the witnesses.
Yeah, on the west side of the building. Yeah, the Rollins.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also, I think we covered this last episode. The window is so low down, it's bullshit for a sniper. The boxes were too high. Yeah, you would have to be in like a prone kind of laying down position to really get a good shot. I think it was like 12 to 24 inches above the floor, 1 to 2 feet. That's what I read today. I know we talked about 1 feet.
Well, here's a real good. Where's my man kneeling at the window? You see how far up the window is off the floor?
Yeah.
So either you're on your knees, which is a very goddamn uncomfortable place to be for an extended period of time, right? Or you're going to sit on your ass, right?
Yeah.
You can't stand and do this, right?
Nope.
So you either got to be on your belly, on your butt, or on your knees. Belly's out because then you'd be too low.
Yeah, I was about to say, I don't think belly would even work.
Unless you're laying on boxes or whatever, but, I'm sure that didn't happen. But,
yeah.
I mean, to be on your knees for that long, brutal.
Yeah.
But that's how low the windows were.
That's a good point.
And those 5th floor windows were wide open. If you look at this picture, if Joe look at the difference between the 5th floor windows that are wide open and the 6th floor window above them. How it's half open. Half open.
And the bottom pane. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Sorry. Go ahead, Joe.
Yeah. And we talked about this on members only. And was the 5th or 6th floor a kind of misdirection? And I think there was a comment earlier. The 7th floor was not accounted for. And that's, I think, what we were kind of mentioning is, all the attention being on maybe the 6th floor and maybe part of the 5th floor. But it makes a lot of sense if you're talking about an intelligence operation that it would be happening on a completely different floor, right? And Linda came in. Hi, Linda.
Oh, hey,
One of
Linda.
our members. Absolutely. Why would they run to the West End when they allegedly heard shots directly above them, got dust in their hair, etc.? I think it was an evolving story that was concocted. We concur.
Yes.
And this is what Cat Daddy Steve said: 7th floor and roof are a mystery to this day. That was what I was referring to, the kind of misdirection.
Well, when we covered in the Truly episode, supposedly him and Marion Baker went straight to the roof, right? Which you could only access through the 7th floor. There was no direct elevator to the roof. So they went up to the 7th floor and the roof and looked up on the hurt sign, and didn't really see any good place for a gunman to be hiding, or any evidence there was anybody shooting up there. And then they went back down to the 1st floor. So supposedly there wasn't anybody up there, but that's if you believe Truly in Baker.
Right. All right. So we'll get into a little bit of Charles Givens. We just heard a little bit from him. And
I got 5 on it.
And of course, as is our process, Rob, we start at first day testimony.
Yes, as early as possible.
Yes. This is Charles Givens' statement to the DPD on November 22nd I think it was mid-afternoon. They don't have a time here. But
well, now hold on, because Givens never came back to work. So how did they get him wrapped up and giving a 20-second statement?
He did not come back to work technically. He kind of lingered around, and then, as we'll get to in my next slide, there was actually a DPD kind of like IPB put out on him for also being missing from
or
the
an
case.
APB.
APB, I'm sorry. Yes. APB. Thank you, sir. And we'll get to that shortly. Okay. But he says, I work for the Texas School Book Depository, Elm Street. I worked up on the 6th floor today until about 11:30 a.m. Then I went downstairs into the bathroom. At 12 o'clock, he took his lunch period. So he was in the bathroom for about half an hour. That chicken must have been really good.
Well, he wasn't the one eating chicken.
I know. I went to the parking lot at Record and Elm Street. I have a friend who works at the parking lot. We walked up to Main and Record when the president passed by. We then walked back to the parking lot after the president had passed by. We had just got back to the lot when we heard the shooting. I think I heard 3 shots. I did not see anyone in the building that was not supposed to be there this morning. So, of course, his first statement says nothing about Oswald, says nothing about going back into the building to get his cigarettes that were in his jacket or anything. Nothing. Right. And we won't see, we're going to go through a few of his statements. We're not going to see him come up with that story until the Warren Commission.
Right.
But, hold on. So this is a DPD radio transcript log. And at 1:46 p.m., dispatch said, we have a man that we would like to have you pass this on to CID, Criminal Intelligence Division, to see if he can pick this man up. Charles Douglas Givens. He is a colored male, 37, 6'3", 165. He is a a porter that worked on this floor up here. He has a police record, and he left. And the interesting thing about this, Rob, is if you look under where that dispatch was sent at 1:46 and above it, it's the exact time the DPD was talking about someone hiding in the balcony in the
Right.
theater.
Right.
Just to give you context of when this APB kind of went out, which was 1:46 and hour and 15 minutes after, right? So,
well, what's interesting is that they put out a general description of Oswald, or the man they're looking for, the man that what's his nuts said that he saw up in the window, and they know they're looking for a white guy.
Brennan, was it?
Yeah,
Brennan?
Yeah. White guy, brown hair, about 5'9", 165 pounds. Definitely didn't say he was black. So why are they so worried about finding this black guy?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure if it was like due diligence as like who else is missing, but they, as we discussed last episode, truly was much more concerned with Oswald.
But they truly told the police there's only one man missing, Lee Oswald.
Yes. And as we covered last episode, he had seen Oswald on the second floor encounter, allegedly, much later than he saw Givens when he saw him out on Elm or Houston or wherever.
Did he see him outside?
Yeah.
Truly? Saw Givens outside the building
I believe we covered that. Yes. Yes. I believe we went.
And how long had Givens worked there?
About the same time as Frasier, September. And we will get into why they might have had leverage on this fella. So we, of course, will go to the next day statement. Or actually, so Charles Givens gives a statement to the FBI later that day. So the first statement was to DPD later in the afternoon. He is still in custody. He gives a statement to the FBI. It says 11:23, but the date of the interview is 22. The report date is 23. Charles Givens advised he was employed at the TSPD, Houston and Elm, from October 1st, 63 to present time. So a little less than 2 months. Givens said he had worked at this same position as a rapper on several occasions prior to this employment.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
A rapper. And I have a statement on this because we had talked about.
My name's Charles Givens, and I like to smoke weed.
Yeah, he did. On November 22nd, 63, Givens worked on the 6th floor of the building until about 11:30 a.m. when he used the elevator to travel to the 1st floor, where he used the restroom at about 11:35.
Round it up, roll it up, yes, indeed.
Givens then walked around the 1st floor until 12 o'clock noon, at which time he walked onto the sidewalk and stood for several minutes, then walked to the classified parking lot.
I was in the bathroom for 30 minutes. They thought I was pooping, but I peed.
He's saying 25 to 20 minutes here, so there's some discrepancy of how long he was in there.
He was playing on his phone, Joe. Leave the man alone.
Hey, people like to do that, but
I do my crossword puzzle, man. What are you talking about?
Maybe he was a time traveler. He had an iPhone back then. Never know. Anything is possible in this case. Givens then walked to Main Street to watch the parade, and after the president and the group had passed, he walked back to the parking lot, at which time he had heard several shots fired from the direction of the building at which he is employed. He attempted to return to work, but was told by a police officer, I'm adding that, but that he had been released for the balance of the day. So that is kind of what Givens is saying, is that he tried to go back in, but was not allowed to, and that's why he left. Givens advised that a white male known as Lee was employed in the same building and worked as a rapper and an order filler. He said he saw the same person's picture on television on the afternoon of November 22nd. he was supposed to have been the person being investigated for the shooting of the president. Lee worked on all floors of the building, and on November 22nd, Givens recalled observing Lee working on the 5th floor during the morning, filling out orders. Lee was standing by the elevator in the building at 11:30 a.m. when Givens went to the 1st floor. When he started down in the elevator, Lee yelled at him to close the gates on the elevator so that Lee, could have the elevator returned to the 6th floor. Givens said that during the past few days, Lee had commented that he rode to work with a boy named Wesley. And we'll get into this, but there was some we got into this a little bit last week with the elevators, but there was an elevator race down after the floor crew was given their lunch break. And Oswald, of course, being the nonconformist, didn't run to the elevators, the east or west elevators, to participate in this race.
I will not play your reindeer games, boys.
Exactly. Yeah. And then a couple people testified that he yelled down to say, leave the gate open or closed so that the elevator can come back up. Givens said that all employees enter the back door of the building when Jack Doherty, the foreman, opens the door at 7 p.m. on the morning of November 22nd. Givens observed Lee reading a newspaper in the domino room where the employees ate lunch around 11:50 a.m. So about 20 minutes after they had this race down the elevators where Lee was left up on the 6th floor, but it could have been the 5th too. He's down there a few minutes later eating lunch, and we're going to see a couple people who said this, actually. So now we're going to jump from the weekend of the assassination to his next statement of Mr. Charles Givens to the FBI on November 13th, 1964.
You mean March? Or what is that, February?
That's 2/13.
Yeah, you said November.
Yeah. Oh, my God, sorry. Yes, thank you. February 13th.
Yeah, you have the wrong header up there.
Oh, I do. I do have that wrong. Yep. Thank you, sir. That is February 13th, 64. Lieutenant Jack Revell, Special Service Bureau, DPD, advised he knows of no witness being held in protective custody by any agency with the assassination of the president. So there was some news article that came out that said someone was being held in protective custody, some Negro.
I don't believe that's the word they used, Joe, but better that one than the one they did use.
Yeah, well, we are on YouTube here, sir.
Yeah, that's the Thayer Waldo article from Houston, I believe it was. Or no, Fort Worth. Yeah, Fort Worth.
Star Telegram, February 10th.
Thayer Waldo. If you don't know, now you know.
I did not know the name of that, the author, but
yeah.
Revell based this opinion on the fact that he saw Charles Givens after the assassination and turned him over to Captain Will Fritz on Homicide and Robbery Bureau, DPD, for an interview. He stated that Givens had been previously handled by the Special Service Bureau on a marijuana charge, and he believes that Givens would change his story for money. So here's Revell in mid-February of 64, like 3 months after.
Or to save his own ass.
Yeah. So, saying that it is, in his opinion, that Givens would change his testimony for money. And this is, of course, based on a couple of marijuana charges he had before. He stated it was his understanding that when Givens was interviewed immediately after the assassination, he stated he was not in the building at the time of the assassination. We know that, yes. So now going on to March 8th, 64, which is when Mr. Beelan was in Texas interviewing a bunch of the TSBD workers. Like we had talked about last episode, a lot of the people were former World War II veterans. Mr. Givens was as well. He was actually 38 or 37, but 38 at the time of the Warren Commission, at the time of the assassination. Norman, you said, was 25. We'll get to Bonnie Ray, but he was 20 or 19. So they had particular specific kind of leverage on this guy for his past discretions, right? Indiscretions. And going to his Warren Commission testimony, one time, Mr. Givens says, I got into a little difficulty, got me in a little trouble. And they're talking about his work history here. Mr. Beelan, you got in a little trouble? Question mark. Yes. So instead of Mr. Beelan asking about that trouble, he goes right on. All right. So you were not working for a while. Yes, sir. How long was that? 13 months. So
Had to do a bid, you know.
I mean, he had a significant job gap before he went to the TSBD, which makes you think that he would have been one of those witnesses that could have been leaned on because he was desperate for work and he did have a criminal history, despite it being for marijuana, which of course today would not be. In the 60s in Texas, yeah. How long have you worked there, Mr. Givens? On and off about 6 years. Was there any period of time where you haven't worked there? Yes. What happened then? Well, I just, sometimes I had some days off to lay off during the slack season, like it is now. And when it is rush season, he calls you back. So we were talking about the seasonal aspect of the employees of the TSBD. Givens was one of those seasonal employees. He was hired when they needed help and did it for 6 years on and off, but was not a permanent employee.
Right.
So
interesting. In the Navy.
Yeah. And continuing with his Warren Commission testimony here. All right, so now they're asking about Oswald. So you saw Oswald 8:30 a.m. on the first floor. Mr. Givens, yes, sir. Then what did you do? We went back upstairs and started to work. You went back up to the 6th floor to continue laying the pipe. Mr. Givens, yes, sir. When did you see Lee Harvey Oswald next? Yes. Well, it was about 11:45. We were on our way downstairs and we passed him, and he was standing at the gate on the 5th floor. I came downstairs and I discovered I left my cigarettes in my jacket pocket upstairs, and I took the elevator back upstairs to get my jacket with my cigarettes in it. When I got back upstairs, he was on the 6th floor in that vicinity, coming from that way. Coming from what way? Mr. Beelan asks. Givens, towards the window up front where the shots were fired from.
I think he's got his floors mixed up here.
He might. He says, just a second. Where did you go? Beelan is confused too. Where were you when you saw him on the 6th floor? I went and got my jacket and was on my way back to the elevator. So, of course, as we mentioned, Charles Givens didn't mention anything in his initial day statement to the DPD. Nothing about going back up to the 6th floor and seeing Oswald. Nothing. Hold on. I have this thing here. On the next day, when he gave the interview to the FBI, he did not say that either. On December 2nd, 63, he was interviewed by the Secret Service. He did not say that as well. December 9th, 63, another FBI report. February 13th, Ravel talks about him, and still no hint about the cigarettes. February 25th, Warren Commission lawyers Ball and Beelan complete a first joint report summarizing the evidence known by that date. No discrepancies as to the time of Gibbons's departure or cigarettes or going back up to the 6th floor were spoken. In March 18th, 64 affidavit, Gibbons also did not mention the cigarettes, and it was only until April 8th, 64. I think that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like 7 interviews after that is when he first talks about these going back up to the 6th floor, seeing Lee so close to
the sniper.
Yeah. So, and when you consider all the crazy discrepancies and inconsistencies in the story,
because they said, okay, so they went downstairs, they raced down on the elevators, right?
Mhm.
Gibbons says, "Oh shit, I left my cigarettes back up there." And in the meantime, Oswald yelled down at him, "Hey, send the elevator back up to the 5th floor." Right?
Mm-hmm.
So if they did that, then how was the elevator still on the 1st floor? Maybe they didn't send it back up immediately. I don't know. But so he says he goes back up to the 6th floor, gets his cigarettes.
Mm-hmm.
And at that point, okay, the elevator's back up there. And if Oswald's still up there, then you think that he would come back down with Gibbons.
Yeah, for sure. But
if that happened, I guarantee you one thing: Gibbons ain't saying that.
Yeah. Or the couple people that we will talk about that saw him in the domino room around noon, and I think I have 3 of those corroborating statements on seeing Oswald down there at around noon. So he did make it down there, and you could see Oswald like, I'm not taking part in these games, these elevator races games, right?
Yeah.
And I'm just going to make my own way down there, right? It fits his character as to what he would do. Yeah. I haven't been checking on the comments, but I'll continue here.
But I'm saying, since he asked for the elevator to be sent back up to him, and then here comes Gibbons back up to get his cigarettes, you would think Gibbons would say, "Hey man, you ready to go back down? You want to come back down with me?" But that's never said.
Yep. So Mr. Beelan continues. You saw Lee Oswald on the 6th floor around 11:55. Gibbons, right. Beelan, did you see Oswald anywhere else in the building between 11:55 and the time you left? No, sir.
No, sir.
November 22nd. No, sir. Did you see him in the domino room? No.
No, sir.
And kind of Gibbons kind of continues his
no, sir.
What is probably a pressured testimony here.
I ain't seen nothing.
Yep. And let's just see. So he talks about hearing the shots and going back over to Houston and Elm. Everyone was running. I asked some white fellow, what happened? Someone shot the president.
Somebody shot the president.
So Gibbons stood there for a while, went over to try to get to the building after they found out the shots came from there, and went to try to get back in the building, but the officer at the door of the TSBD would not let him in. Did you tell him you work there? Beelan asks. Givens, yes, but he still wouldn't let me in. So I goes back over to the parking lot, and I wait, and I seen Junior. Is that Jarman? Yes. They were on their way home and told me that they let them all go home for the evening, and I said, I better go back and get my hat and coat.
Despite not being let in the building.
Yeah. So
2 minutes before that. But I'm going to go back and get my hat and coat, even though they just wouldn't let me in.
I think this is them giving an excuse as to why he was missing during the roll call, right? When they realized Oswald was the only one missing. When, of course, Givens was, and I think there was someone else that was at a dentist appointment.
Yeah, because they didn't lock the building down for like 10 or 15 minutes after the shots. There was all kinds of people going in and out of that building.
Yeah.
And if he was a couple blocks away and he heard the shots and then came on back to work, he probably would have made it in 10 or 15 minutes.
Yeah, and I think it's just running cover for why he was absent during the roll call.
Yeah, because they supposedly
I tried to get back in,
back
they wouldn't let me in.
They supposedly let Victoria Adams and Sandra Stiles back in the building. You know, they have these reporters that don't even work there going in the building. You have military intelligence who don't work there going in the building to make phone calls.
James Powell, yeah.
So you got all these people going in and out of the building. And they didn't lock it down for like 10 or 15 minutes because they didn't really realize that. Because apparently, after Marion Baker went up to the 7th floor truly and they came back down to the 1st floor, he bounced. He went out and got on his motorcycle and headed to Parkland.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the roll call didn't happen, I read today, until about 1:30, and that's an hour after the shots.
Right.
And listen, if I was working there and that happened and people were like, yo, they let us go for the day, like, I'd be out. I'd be like, screw this. I'm not staying here.
Right.
Like, you couldn't catch me there to, like, spend hours in the police station or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, so I think that is running cover for Oswald being the only person missing, right? Let me find where I was because I missed my spot. Okay, how many shots did you hear? Givens, 3. What did you do when you heard them? Well, we broke and ran down that way, and by the time we got to the corner there of Houston and Elm, everyone was running, going towards the underpass over there by the railroad tracks. And we asked another... Oh, wait. Shit, I read that already.
Somebody shot the president.
Yeah, I lost my spot. But so Jarman's testimony was significantly changed from, let me bring this up back here, from his November 22nd initial statement to the 23rd to then December 9th, February 13th, February 25th, March 18th, April 8th, Warren Commission. And they actually go back and testify him or interview him again on September 20th, 64 to kind of nail down some inconsistencies in the story. And of course, the time changes a few minutes towards their narrative, right, of seeing Oswald on the 6th floor. But
and we should probably say also, Joe, that they flew these 3 guys to Washington, D.C. to take their testimony. They didn't do it in Dallas like the rest of the employees. So for some reason, they flew these guys to D.C. like first class. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah, kind of, curry some favor, right?
Do something.
Like, oh, this is the life. Why would I go against the narrative when I'm being put up in a hotel and
Yeah, if we say what they want us to, shit, we're going
Yes,
on
very careful.
vacation.
So that is some of
the
the statements.
Washington Monument.
That is some of the statements of Givens. I don't think he testified to the HSCA. I could be wrong about that. I didn't see it in my search. If I'm wrong, I'll correct it next episode. But Charles Givens, and of course, he was the elder, 37 at the time.
Yes.
So,
big fan of the ganja. as are we.
yeah.
All right.
Ball's back in your court, sir.
All right. Now we're on to James Earl Magic Jarman. Throwing in the magic there. Otherwise known as Junior. Okay. And this cat is 33 years old. Okay. Lived on Atlanta Street in Dallas. And his first testimony of anything is a city, or I'm sorry, is a county of Dallas. So this is to the sheriff's department on November 23rd. Okay. Junior Jarman. Here we go. I work for the Texas School Book Depository, blah, 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 Elm Street, as a checker on the first floor for Mr. Roy S. Truly. On Friday, November 22nd, I got to work at 8:05 a.m. The first time I saw Lee Oswald on Friday was about 8:15 a.m. He was filling orders already on the first floor. A little after 9 a.m., Lee Oswald asked me what all the people were doing standing in the street. I told him that the president was supposed to come this way sometime this morning. He asked me, which way do you think he coming? I told him that the president would probably come down Main Street and turn on Houston and then go down Elm. He said, yes, I see. I only talked with him for about 3 or 4 minutes, which is a pretty long time, folks. For somebody who didn't talk to people. Last time I saw him that day was between 11:30 and noon when he was taking the elevator upstairs to go get some boxes. At about 11:45, all the employees who were working on the 6th floor came downstairs, and we were all out on the street at about 12 o'clock, noon. These employees were Bill Shelley, Charles Givens, who actually was not there, okay, Billy Lovelady, Bonnie Ray. I mean, Bonnie Ray is all over the goddamn place, man. He's on the 5th floor. He's out front of the school depository. He's up on the 6th floor eating a chicken sandwich. And I mean, god damn. Plus, he had to leave to get the chicken. And a Spanish boy, which would be Danny Arce. His name I can't remember. To my knowledge, Lee Oswald was not with us while we were watching the parade. Now, he doesn't mention nothing about being on the 5th floor, okay, of the school book depository at the time of the assassination. He says, we were all out on the street at about 12 o'clock, blah, 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 blah. To my knowledge, Lee Oswald was not with us while we were watching the parade. How does that work? Thanks, Greg. Appreciate it, brother. You are the man.
Sorry. Thank you, sir.
Maybe we can go get a vape later, Joe, and get all Givens up. So that's an odd statement to be making the day after the assassination, and you don't say you were on the 5th floor or who you were watching it with. I mean, that's very weird. Very weird. Now, the next time he's interviewed is by the FBI on November the 24th, which is the day after he gave this statement to the sheriff.
Right, Sunday.
James Jarman advised he formerly resided at blah, 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 currently employed at blah, blah, blah. He stated that he knew Lee Oswald only casually through their mutual employment with the School of Depository, Joseph. He stated that from what he could observe, Oswald was not particularly well acquainted with anyone employed at the TSBD. He said that no one could seem to get acquainted with Oswald, and that he himself had never talked to Oswald sufficiently to draw any conclusion as to Oswald's thoughts, aspirations, or attitudes. He noted that Oswald worked as an order filler on the first floor of the building, occupied by the TSBD, but that he had access to every floor of the building in the course of carrying out his duties as an order filler. He said he observed Oswald reading on a number of occasions, but he did not know the nature of the literature being read by Oswald. He believed it consisted of old newspapers, paperbacks, and possibly other forms of literature. Probably communist literature, Joe.
It was actually a paper, but a day old, because Oswald did not want to buy the paper on that day.
Yeah.
So he read the paper the day after, like a day.
That's not news at that point. That's history. He stated that on November 22nd, he observed Oswald on the first floor of the School Book Depository building around 8:15. He stated Oswald had filled an order for books that was not correct, and that he himself had told Oswald to go back and get the right motherfucking books, in so much as he himself is an order checker. Okay? Now, this is totally different than we've heard from Truly and Frasier and everybody. They always said that Oswald was damn near 100%, that he caught on very quickly. It's not rocket science, and he was very good at doing his job. Right. But on this day, Joe, on this day, he fucked up.
Is that because he had something else on his mind? Is that what they're trying to say? Is that what they're trying to say? I think
possibly, yeah. I think that's what they're
he
trying to say.
was so caught up with the motorcade, he couldn't fill his book orders. Yeah. Yeah.
Hard to do with a rifle down your pants. Let's see, where are we here? Okay, he said he next saw Oswald at 9 a.m. or possibly a little later. Jarman said Oswald looked out the window and observed that people were gathering outside and asked him why they were there. Jarman told him the president was supposed to come that way sometime that morning. He stated Oswald asked him which way the procession would be going, and Jarman told him he thought it would probably be going down Main Street, turning on Houston, then on Elm. He said he next saw Oswald between 11:30 and noon when Oswald was taking the elevator to an upper floor, at which time they had no conversation. Oswald had an order filler pad. Jarman said that as the president passed by, he himself was watching the procession from a fifth floor window of the School Book Depository building. That he was in the third window from the east side of the building, which was located in front of the building, overlooking the procession. He stated that two other employees, Harold Norman and Bonnie Ray, last name unknown, were in the first window from the east side of the building, 2 windows away from him, from which vantage point they were viewing the procession. He said that he heard a shot, and then he saw President Kennedy move his right hand up to his head, and after in a lapse of 3 or 4 seconds, heard a second shot, and then the vehicle bearing Kennedy speeded up, and he was unable to observe any more about the presidential vehicle. He said a third shot was heard by him closely following the second shot, possibly within a second or two afterwards. He said these shots sounded to him to be too loud to have been anywhere outside the School Book Depository building. Jarman said that he and Harold Norman and Bonnie Ray went to the west side of the building on the 5th floor where they discussed the shots. He said they decided the shots had come from inside the building because they were too loud to have come from outside the building. He said that Norman stated at the time that something had fallen from above him and that a piece of debris, in addition, had hit him in the face, that his window was open at the time where he was viewing the procession below. So now it goes from getting dust in his eyes, and now I got a piece of debris hit him in the face. Right? Jarman said that he did not see Oswald again and had not seen him since the motorcade passed the building. He stated that also he did not see Oswald at the start of the workday on November 22nd, pointing out that Oswald normally got to work in advance of him, despite the fact that a day earlier he told the sheriff that he saw Oswald at 8:05 in the morning. Okay? So why, oh why, is the story changing? Is it because they suddenly have a picture of these three guys hanging out the windows of the 5th floor of the building? Because I'm not a rocket scientist and I don't claim to play one on TV or on YouTube. But okay, if me and my two buddies are hanging out on the 5th floor of the building, and the shots allegedly came from the 6th floor of the building, right above them, and they don't catch anybody right away, and I'm a black guy in 1963 with two other black guys, and nobody else around to say that, hey, those guys are cool, they didn't do nothing, you better believe they didn't admit to being on the 5th floor on that first day until they probably figured out that somebody got a picture of them. And they said, well, you weren't out front. Here's a picture of you in the window, from Tom Dillard here. So that story changed very quickly, Joe.
Yeah, and I don't think any of the four we're talking about said that they felt any type of debris fall on them first day or second day. I could be wrong. Did I miss anything?
I have to go back and look at Norman when that one went to Norman. I think it was definitely after this one.
Yeah.
Because I didn't even talk to Norman until the 26th, but I don't think he said that until the December interview.
Okay.
And then next up, December 5th, James Jarman is the FBI now, talking to him. Advised that he is currently employed at the School Depository and that he knew Lee Harvey Oswald only casually now. Only casually.
Of course.
Through their mutual employment, Jarman advised that he could not recall what type of clothing he was wearing, despite having talked to him for 3 or 4 minutes and seen him at various points throughout the day. Okay. But that Oswald usually worked in a white T-shirt. He stated that there was a dressing room on the 1st floor of the School Depository where the employees could change their clothes or leave their shirts when they commenced work or during working hours. He said that when Oswald worked in a T-shirt, Oswald usually had a regular shirt in the dressing room. Jarman was shown a rust brown sports shirt with a hole in the right sleeve, which, according to the arresting officers, was being worn by Oswald at the time of his arrest. Jarman stated that the above-described shirt was vaguely familiar to him. Joe, vaguely familiar. But he could not be 100% certain if this shirt was worn by Oswald or brought with him to work on the 22nd of November. But it looked vaguely familiar. But I can't say for certain. Next up, December 23rd, another FBI conversation. He stated that prior to the time that Jack Ruby shot Oswald on the 24th, he had never known Jack Ruby and he had no information to reflect that there was any connection between Ruby and Oswald. And that was
a great source to ask for that.
Yeah, that's the 23rd. Merry Christmas, Junior. Next time they talk to him, another FBI. But they're up this guy's ass, man. January 14th.
Yeah. And you have to ask why so many FBI interviews if everything's going to stay the same.
Oswald's already dead and they pinned it on him. It's done. By this time. So why are they still talking to these motherfuckers?
I think it's because they're trying to move the timeline of...
They're doing something.
Of either the elevator race or when Gibbons saw Oswald on the 6th floor or when like we'll say like Bonnie Ray Williams finished
I mean,
his chicken
you got the
bone.
FBI coming knocking on your door every 2 weeks when they ask you more questions. Be like, look, man, I've done told you everything I know. Why you keep coming here? We just have a couple more questions, sir.
Yeah.
Look, man, what you want me to say? You know?
Yeah.
I could see that happening too. James Earl Jarman, like I said, this is from January 14th, known as Junior, advised that he resides at blah, blah, blah. He's employed at the blah, blah, blah. He said that he and Hank, which is Harold Norman, and Bonnie Ray Williams were all employed at the school book depository, blah, blah, blah. On November 22nd, 1963, he said that he and the other two boys ate lunch on the first floor around noon on November 22nd, 63, and that shortly afterwards went to the fifth floor at 12:25 p.m. on the west elevator in the building in order to watch the president of the parade. He said they stayed there until they heard the sound of shots. Then they went downstairs. He said that Ray and Norman were with him all the time he was on the first floor, and they did not see Lee Harvey Oswald at any time between noon until they returned to the first floor after the shooting. Jarman advised that Norman is no longer employed there, but he thinks he still resides at Beulah. Now, this is interesting, Joe, because now we suddenly have the revelation, okay? Jarman is now stating that Williams, Bonnie Ray, and Norman were with him the entire time that they were on the first floor from 12 noon until shortly afterwards, went to the fifth floor about 12:25 p.m. And we know that's a lie because Bonnie Ray Williams sat upstairs on the sixth floor by himself and ate his chicken sandwich, drank his Dr. Pepper, and smoked his Viceroys, and then went down to the fifth floor. Yep. So why is he lying, saying that Williams was with him the entire time? He's giving Williams an alibi, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying Williams did anything nefarious. I'm just saying he's protecting a brother because it don't look good if you're Bonnie Ray Williams and you're on the sixth floor at 12:25, okay? Because that's allegedly 5 minutes before the shots rang out on the sixth floor. Mm-hmm. So that ain't a good look.
Yeah. You didn't see anything? Are you complicit?
Yeah. So that's interesting. And then the next time is March 12th. And this is for the Warren Commission. It's to J. Lee Rankin from Melvin Eisenberg. Subject, identity of assassin. He says, I think a thorough investigation should be run on TSBD employee Jack Doherty. On the morning of November 22nd, Doherty was part of a crew laying a new floor on the sixth floor. This crew consisted of Danny Arce, Doherty, Givens, Junior Jarman, Billy Lovelady, and Bonnie Ray Williams, all regular employees in the school book depository shipping and order filling department. They were apparently working under the direction of William Shelley, the senior employee in that department. In a written statement to the Dallas police, Doherty gave the following story. On the morning of the 22nd, he had worked with the floor laying crew until 12 o'clock when he went down to the first floor to eat his lunch. After lunch, he returned to work on the sixth floor and then went down to the fifth floor to get some stock when he heard a shot, which sounded as if it had come from inside the building. He then went back down to the first floor and asked Eddie Piper, the janitor, whether Piper had heard anything. Piper said yes, he heard 3 shots. Doherty then returned to the sixth floor.
Mm-hmm. Didn't he say he went back to work at like 12:45? Like, yeah, you're going to go back to work after this?
Yeah.
Or something.
He says Special Agent Blake of the Secret Service, who interviewed Doherty between December 2nd and December 5th, reported when Doherty was interviewed, he seemed to be very confused about times and places. Mr. Truly furnished the information that although Doherty is a very good employee and a hard worker, that he is mentally retarded and has difficulty in remembering facts, such as dates, times, and places, and has been especially confused since the assassination. I am suspicious of Doherty for several reasons. Number one, he has no alibi. Of the 6 employees on the floor laying crew, Givens claims to have been with a friend at a parking lot several blocks away. Williams and Jarman were together on the 5th floor with another employee, Norman. Lovelady was standing outside, and Arce claims to have been standing outside the TSBD. Doherty was inside the TSBD all alone. His story is very thin. It does not make sense that Doherty, one of the 6 men floor laying crew, should begin working before the other 5 have returned from lunch. It's questionable that Doherty would have to go to the 5th floor to get stock in connection with the floor laying project. That is true. It doesn't make sense. And there's a note at the bottom that says Doherty's father told the FBI that Doherty had received a medical discharge from the U.S. Army and had considerable difficulty coordinating his mental faculties and his speech, much like your boy Big Bad Bob saying liberty, lobbity. Jarman, Norman, and Williams, who were at the southwest window of the 5th floor at the time of the assassination, or southeast window, sorry, and run from there to the southwest window, make absolutely no mention of having seen Doherty on the 5th floor. It does not seem credible that Doherty would have gone to the 1st floor, found out that the 3 shots had been fired, and then casually returned to the 6th floor. No report indicates that Doherty or anybody else from the 6th floor was on that floor when searched. Since Doherty heard the shots on the 5th floor, and since the shots were fired at approximately 12:32, Doherty must have returned to the 6th floor, allegedly to go back to work before 12:30, which seems odd since the school book depository lunch period ends at 12:45. If Doherty is mentally retarded, it may explain some of the inconsistencies in his story. On the other hand, the mental retardation may be an emotional problem, which would itself be grounds for suspicion. Yeah. In this connection, I find disturbing Truly's comment that Doherty was, quote, has been especially confused since the assassination. You know, like if he had some PTSD or something, you know, from the war.
That's what imply. Yeah.
You know, he might have been shell-shocked or, you know, who knows?
Yeah, but I think it was Givens that was saying first of all, Doherty had I think we talked about this last episode. He had the key to open up, right? And he also kind of had carte blanche on that back door to let employees in after lunch. Doesn't seem like the most useless employee.
No. And I've seen Doherty's handwritten statement. He was not mentally retarded. No. I mean, his handwriting is like better than mine. You know what I mean? Like,
and in cursive, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that might have been an excuse given to explain the discrepancies, right?
Yeah. So let's take a look here, Joe, at what James Jarman Jr. has to say in this little clip.
Let's do it.
Our next witness from the 5th floor window, James Jarman Jr.
I was talking to him around about 10 o'clock. On the outside of the building, some people had gathered. And he asked me what was they gathering around out there for. And I told him that the president was supposed to come by that morning. And he asked me what time, and I didn't know what time it would be, but some of the people had started gathering around. And he asked me which way would the president be coming. And I told him. And so he said, oh, yeah. And I said, yeah. And then he turned around and walked off.
So, sticking to his story, right? So, like I said, I think there's more in HSTA, but we'll save that until we get back. Now let's get into Bonnie Ray, Joe.
All right. Well, Mr. Bonnie Ray, the fourth African American gentleman in our segment here. This is a couple pictures on the left. I think we showed this last week, Rob, and we kind of joked he looked stoned. That's next to Danny Arce.
Man, when you tripping?
Gee. And in the middle and to the right, I think that's the same picture, just in color and black and white. And the middle picture of I believe it was the reenactment, right? So let me.
Is that from Rush to Judgment, the Mark Lane film?
I found it on YouTube. I'm gonna play it in a second right now.
Oh,
actually,
okay.
As I plug my laptop in.
I don't remember Mark Lane interviewing him, but I could be wrong. It just looks like that writing.
All right, well, we'll find out in a second here. All right, this is only 38 seconds, and this is Bonnie Ray Williams.
Lee Ray.
CBS News inquiry of the Warren Report, so 64 probably, and almost certainly. So I don't have the exact date.
So when the president came around, we remember seeing him standing up and waving. Then he just turned to go down Elm Street. We heard a shot, and we saw the president slump. We'll be proud of that, though. We decided there was some fireworks and everything, you know. And then after we saw him slump, we said, I think one guy, I don't remember which one it was, said that, I believe they're shooting at the president. And I believe it came from right up over us.
How many shots did you hear?
I heard 3. The first and second was further apart than the second and the third. In other words, that was a bang and a bang bang like that.
Bang to the bang bang. Gang gang.
Yeah, so that was Bonnie Ray in 64. And as we have done with everyone else. Oh, actually, before I start here, I have a couple pin comments. Kind of looks like Carlton. Yeah, it does. Trey, Oswald was a hell of an athlete. Look how fast he got down 4 flights of stairs, then ran to 10th and Patton in the theater, shimmying down elevator cables. Yeah, and Paul said LHO greater than Spider-Man. Mr. Perpetual Concepts. Hi, sir. How are you? We're red rocket scientists. Trust the Great comment, as Perpetual Comments is, comments almost always are. Paula asked, debris fell onto his head outside the window. Yeah, that's what they claim.
Yeah, I don't know if it was inside the window or I don't know.
Well,
it's all very murky.
Yeah, I mean, it fell on. I think he said it fell on his head actually, but it, and I might even have that in the next my next slides. But and last one. Hey, Slacker Dan, got here late. Hope everyone is having a great 25 so far. We are, and we hope you are, and all our listeners are too. So
every Friday night is great. It's the rest of the week that kills me.
That's I hear you there. So Bonnie Ray. Let's go to his DPD statement on November 22nd.
After he was arrested. Yes.
Yep. I worked on the 6th floor today with Mr. Bill Danny, although I think that means Bill Shelley, and There's a
I worked up there with Mr. Bill, Danny, Charles, and Billy, and a Billy Lovelady.
Yeah, there's a comma missing.
I think he
Danny
forgot
Arcetti,
people.
Charles Givens, and a Billy
Forgot
Love.
Jack Doherty.
Yeah, right.
Can't forget the retarded guy. I mean, damn.
Up until about 10 or 12 minutes to noon. Then we went downstairs.
It's my turn to work the hammer.
We rode the elevator to the first floor and got our lunches. That is the infamous elevator race. I went back to the 5th floor with a fellow called Hank and Junior. I don't know his last name.
I think he sells propane.
Just after we got on the 5th floor, we saw the president coming around the corner on Houston from Main Street. I heard 2 shots, and it sounded like they came from just above us. We ran to the west side of the building. That's the Knoll side. We didn't see anybody. We looked down and saw people running and hollering. We stayed there, and a little while, some officers came up. They left, and we took the elevator to the 4th floor. Interesting.
Yeah, because before, didn't they say they took the stairs down to the 1st floor? All 3 of them at the same time after?
Oh, yeah, from the lunch break.
No, from the 5th floor. They said they were up there for about 5 minutes, and they went down the stairs and didn't see nobody. Now, he's saying that the police came up to the 5th floor. They took the elevator down to the 4th floor. But please continue.
Yeah.
Nothing's jiving here.
No, it's all a mess, Rob. I'm trying to put it all together in my head, and that's what we're kind of getting at here, guys.
This is as messy as Mexico City and the medical evidence.
Yeah, if you can't tell, this is what we're getting at, ladies and gentlemen. Let's see. We ran to the west side of the building. We didn't see anybody. We looked down and saw people running and hollering. We stayed there. I already read that. And in a little while, some officers came up. They left, and we took the elevator to the 4th floor. We stayed at the 4th floor for a while and then went outside. The Oswald was there when I got to work this morning at 8 a.m. He fills orders and goes over the building. I didn't see Oswald anymore that I remember. After I saw him at 8 a.m., I recognized him just a few minutes ago when the officers brought him into the office, the DPD office. Oswald had been working with the DPD for about 6 weeks. So that is Bonnie Ray's day of statement on the 22nd. So, but the FBI the next day interviews Bonnie Ray again. And during the past 3 weeks, Bonnie Ray has been putting in new flooring in the TSBD building. During that time, he became acquainted with a young man known to him as Lee. Williams stated on November 22nd, 1963, he worked installing flooring on the 6th floor of the building until about 11:30 a.m. At that time, he went down on an elevator from the 6th floor to the 1st floor. At the same time, Charles Givens was on the other elevator, descending on the same time. As they were going down, he saw Lee on the 5th floor. He had previously seen Lee at least once that morning at 8 a.m. on the 1st floor filling orders. So that is, of course, the elevator race we've been talking about. At approximately 12 noon, Williams went back upstairs in the elevator to the 6th floor with his lunch. This is the infamous chicken bones and Dr. Pepper. He stayed on that floor only about 3 minutes.
Bullshit. Pray continue.
And seeing no one was there, descended to the 5th floor using the stairs at the west end of the building. There he joined 2 other men known to him as Hank and Junior. They were looking out the windows on the south side of the building, approximately at the middle of the building, and saw the car of President John F. Kennedy coming north on Houston Street and then making a turn going west on Elm Street onto the triple underpass, passing directly in front of the TSPD. While they were watching this car pass, Bonnie Ray Williams heard 2 shots, which sounded like they came from right above over his head. He stated he was not hanging out of the window, but did glance up and saw no one. He stated he was hanging out the window, but did glance up and saw no one.
Of course not, because there's a fucking ceiling right there, or the floor of the 6th floor, one of the two.
Yeah, nothing about
here. All I could see was a floor or a ceiling.
Yeah, nothing about hearing the shells hit the floor, right? Nothing of that, right?
Well, you never know. I mean, Oswald could have had Spider-Man-like powers where he could walk on walls and ceilings and, been upside down on the ceiling when he shot the president.
Yeah, or he could have put a rug down and then kind of rolled it up before he hid the rifle, right?
Yeah.
You never know. He stated he and the other 2 men ran out to the west end of the building, which is consistent, where they looked out and did not realize that the person had been shot, and Williams did not see him shot. While they were standing on the west end of the building on the 5th floor, a police officer came up on the elevator and looked all around the 5th floor and left the floor.
Makes no sense whatsoever.
Is that Baker?
No.
That's what I'm saying. They went up to the 7th or 6th or 7th. They went up to the roof. I don't think Baker ever said he stopped on the 5th floor. I could be wrong, but
they may have gotten off the elevator on the 5th floor and walked down the stairs from there. But again, why would you? And if you see 3 suspicious black guys on the 5th floor, you want to stick a gun in Oswald's gut and ask truly if the man works here, but you don't do that to them?
That's a very good point. While they were standing at the west end of the building on the 5th floor, sorry, this is hard to keep your lines here. Williams stated that he and Hankins Jr. were standing where they would have seen anyone coming down from the 6th floor via the stairs, and that they did not see anyone coming down. Interesting. He stated someone might have been coming down on the elevator, and they would have not been noticed, and they would have not noticed that. He stated that after the police officer left the 5th floor, Williams went down to the 4th floor, where there were a lot of women around the west end of the floor.
A lot of white women.
Yeah, the publishing ladies, right?
How you doing, man?
Hey. Bill Shelley asked about Lee, but no one had seen him. That's an interesting sentence there. Because this is way before Oswald was reported missing.
Yeah, and Shelley wasn't anywhere near these guys.
Yeah, he was out front with Lovelady or some shit.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, we're continuing to convey how little sense this whole thing makes. Williams stated that while working on the 6th floor until 11:30 a.m. on November 22nd, he did not see Lee or anyone else in the southwest corner of the building. He stated there are a number of shelves stacked with books in the area, but he would have been unable to see this corner, the sniper's corner, I think, from where he was working. He pointed out, however, that he did go from the windows on the south side of the 6th floor, middle of the building, about 3 minutes after 12 and did not see anyone standing at any of the windows at that time. Bonnie Ray Williams stated that Lee was always reading the newspapers, but did not like to read the sport pages like many men do, but read politics. He stated Lee would read something in the paper and then laugh about it. On one occasion, he looked at the paper Lee was reading when he laughed and noticed Lee was reading something from the front page of the newspaper. Okay. Williams advised that Lee did not seem to have any close friends or associates with anyone on the job, and only recalled Wesley, who drove him to work. But so then we are going from the weekend of the assassination to Bonnie Ray Williams's FBI statement on December 5th, 1963, which is about 2 weeks. And this is about what Lee Harvey Oswald was wearing. He was wearing a gray corduroy.
It's called corduroy, Joe. Maybe you've heard of it.
Yeah, I totally mispronounced that. Corduroy. Thank you, sir. A pair of pants and a grayish-looking sports shirt with long sleeves.
You know, it goes.
Hey, I've been reading a lot of words. You know, I'm going to get one wrong at some point. Williams was shown a rust brown sport coat, which a hole in the right sleeve at the elbow, which according to the arresting officers was being worn by Oswald at the time of his arrest. Williams was unable to identify this shirt and could not recall ever seeing Oswald wearing the shirt or a shirt similar in his appearance. Okay, so let's go forward about 4 months. And this is another FBI statement by Bonnie Ray. What?
Liberty Coggeroy.
Oh, I'm not looking at the comments. I'm looking at my spreadsheet. But
yeah, that's another interesting point there, Cat Daddy Steve. That all the girls, there were 3 on the stairs, 1 stayed behind, right? Dorothy Garner stayed out on the 4th floor landing and saw nobody, not Oswald and not these dudes coming down the stairs either, which is sus. Because you think, we saw these 3 black guys come running down the stairs. Yeah, that didn't happen.
Yeah, I doubt the publishing ladies would be hesitant to point that out. You know? What are we to do with this? So here we are with another FBI statement about 4 months after the December statement. And Bonnie Ray freely gives us a voluntary statement.
Yes. Yes. Pay no attention to the gun in my back.
Yes. On November 22nd, 1963, I, along with Harold Hank Norman and James Earl Jarman Jr., both of whom are also employed at the TSBD, were on the 5th floor for the presidential motorcade, where we were at the windows, which are located at the center of the building on the south side. As the presidential motorcade passed by the building on Elm, they came from directly above me. I think he's talking about the shots. At first, I thought the noises I heard were firecrackers. We've heard that before. I looked up when little pieces of cement hit me on the head. There's the answer to your question, Paula Jane. But I saw no one. I did not know that President John F. Kennedy had been shot. When I saw the confusion on the street, we ran to the west side of the building to get a better view. Hank and Jr., who were on the floor with me, also ran to the west end of the building. Same thing about the police officer coming up. Last time he saw Oswald was 11:40 a.m. And at that time, Oswald was on the 6th floor. I did not pay any particular attention to what he was doing. I did not observe any strangers. And and more kind of BS here. But so now we go to his Warren Commission testimony, and they ask him, of course, did you know Mr. Ball? Did you know Lee Harvey Oswald? I didn't know him personally, of course, but I'd seen him working, never said anything to anyone. He just went about his work. He never said anything to me. I never said anything to him. Bonnie Ray, the only time he'd come into the lunchroom would be to eat a sandwich and maybe go for a walk and go out, and I assume he'd come back. The only other time he'd come in would be to read a paper or nothing, maybe, or something, and laugh and leave again. Interesting thing with the laugh while reading the paper. That's like the second person we've heard say that.
He was reading Beetle Bailey, man. Come on, give him a break.
He was reading comics, not politics. He would never speak to anyone, Lee. He was just a funny fellow. I don't know what kind of fellow he was. So I'm skipping around a little bit because Bonnie Ray's Warren Commission testimony could take us a whole show. Did you see Oswald on the 6th floor that morning? Mr. Ball asks. Bonnie Ray, I'm not sure. I saw him once messing around with some cartons or something back on the east side of the building, but he wasn't in the window that they said he shot the president from. He was more on the east side of the elevator, messing around with the cartons of boxes. He was always just messing around, kicking cartons around. This morning, when you think you saw Oswald on the 6th floor, can you tell us about where he was? So I'm going to read the format of this question again by Mr. Ball. This morning, aka the morning of the 22nd, when you think you saw Oswald on the 6th floor. So he's kind of forming the answer for Bonnie Ray. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
Yeah, he's like leading the witness. That would be like objection, leading the witness in a court of law. Of course, we know this is the court of public opinion, not a court of law. Well, as I said before, Bonnie Ray says, I'm not sure he was really on the 6th floor. So to his credit, he doesn't go along with the leading of the witness there. But he was always around that way. Okay. I think I saw him on the east elevator come up to the 6th floor. He was on that side of the elevator. But I thought that was an interesting example. Mr. Ball, did you go downstairs? We took 2 elevators down. I mean, speaking as a group, we took 2 down. Was there some reason you took 2 elevators down? Bonnie Ray, well, we always had a little kids game we played, racing down the elevators. And I think one fellow, Charles Givens, had the east elevator. And me, I think 2 or 3 more fellows had the west elevator. And we were racing down. Now, did something happen on the way down? Did someone yell out? Again, really leading the witness here. Yes, on the way down, I heard Oswald. And I'm not sure whether he was on the 5th or 6th floor. But on the way down, Oswald hollered, guys, how about the elevator? And that makes sense, right? You had these Scafusa coworkers playing some dumb game, doing some elevator race. Oswald maybe trying to finish his work, maybe just being a non, didn't want to participate in the silliness, which was that game, right? Just didn't go down the elevator with them. It makes a lot of sense when you think about Oswald's character, actually. And Charles Givens said, come on, boy. And Lee said, close the gate on the elevator and send the elevator back up. Like when you're done with your reindeer games, close the door and send it back up type of thing. I don't know what happened after that. Gerald Ford kind of chimes in and gets into some elevator drama. And I'm skipping a little way into Mr. Ball asking Bonnie Ray about the chicken sandwich. Describe the sandwich, Mr. Ball says. What did it have in it besides chicken? Bonnie Ray, well, it just had chicken in it. Chicken on the bone. Is that a chicken sandwich, Rob?
Well, keep going, because yes, apparently it is.
Chicken on the bone, Mr. Ball asks. Bonnie Ray, yes, the chicken was not boned. It was just chicken on the bone, just plain old chicken. Did it have bread around it? Yes, it did. Before you went upstairs, did you have anything to drink? Bonnie Ray, I got a small bottle of Dr. Pepper from the Dr. Pepper machine. Did you have anything in your lunch besides chicken? Had a bag of Fritos, he believes. You say you went back upstairs. Where did you go? I went back up to the 6th floor. Bonnie Ray says, well, at the time, everyone was talking like they were going to watch from the 6th floor. I think Lovelady said he wanted to watch from up there. And also my friend, the Spanish boy, Danny Arce, we had agreed at first to come back up to the 6th floor. So I thought everyone was going to be hanging on the 6th floor. Did anyone go back up to the 6th floor? Nobody came back. So I just left. So he's kind of saying like he wasn't sure where people were going to be hanging. He wanted to kind of hang with the coworkers. So he stayed up on the 6th floor. And then when he realized no one was hanging up there, he went down to the 5th floor.
Well, does it make sense that if they're all talking about watching it from the 6th floor, that Oswald is going to stay behind and shoot from the 6th floor, thinking that other people, and here comes Bonnie Ray back up there to eat, and he's probably expecting more people to come up there and eat. That he's going to be up there hiding in a corner with his rifle just waiting. I mean, what the hell?
No, there's no way you could anticipate coworkers not being on that floor. I mean, there were people hanging out of a lot of windows, not only from the TSPD, from a lot of buildings. There's no way you can anticipate that, okay, the 6th floor is going to be clear at this point, right? It just doesn't make sense.
It doesn't. None of it makes sense.
None of it makes sense.
It's a clusterfuck of epic proportions.
It really is. So I think I have just 2 more slides here, Rob. I know we're going long here, as we like to do, or as we do.
As Joe makes it.
Oh, come on. That's not true. Let's see. He was talking about the chicken sandwich. Oh, yeah. So now they're asking him about the discrepancy on later statements to his FBI statements. And Mr. Ball is actually bringing this up. When you talked to the FBI on 23rd of November, you said that you went up to the 6th floor about 12 noon with your lunch, and you stayed only about 3 minutes. And seeing no one, you came down to the 5th floor. Now, do you think you stayed longer than 3 minutes up here? I am sure I stayed longer than 3 minutes. So, okay. They are lengthening the timeline here with this questioning, right? In my humble opinion. Mr. Ball is not going to bring up a discrepancy with his November 23rd FBI statement and what he's telling them now, unless it benefits the narrative, right? No way that you convince me of that, right? So they're just kind of manipulating the timeline here. And that's what stood out to me. And my last one here. When the cement fell on your head, did either of the men notice it or say something about it?
Oh, now first it was plaster, then debris, now it's cement.
Yeah.
Falling from the wooden floor above. Okay.
So Bonnie Ray says, I believe Harold was the first one. That is Hank Norman. I believe he was the first one. He said, man, I don't know. It came from there. It even shook the building. He said, you got something on your head. And then James Jarman said, yeah, man, don't you brush it out. By that time, I just forgot about it. But after I got downstairs, I think I brushed it out anyway.
I'm just going to leave it there. Shoot.
Oh, my God. Well, did Norman say anything about hearing the bolt of the rifle? Bonnie Ray. I don't remember him saying anything about it, but you heard him say he could hear the cartridges. I heard Harold Norman. Pardon me. I thought you were saying Jarman. Did Norman say anything about the bolt? Yes, he said he could hear the rifle and it sounded like it was right above. But you could not hear this, Bonnie Ray. No, I could not hear it.
Despite being less than 5 feet away from him.
Yeah. So
Ay.
it's mind blowing.
It's a mess.
It's a mess. It's a mess. And you almost wonder if they wanted to make it a mess on purpose, right?
Obviously.
Colleen.
Thank you, Colleen.
Thank you.
Much
Sheba.
obliged.
Yes. Sheba and Ruby say thank you.
Bowing respectfully. Yes, thank you. All right, Joe, you ready for the October surprise? Or you want to jump into some comments first?
Yeah, let me do. I'm just like I'm catching up like really quickly. I don't know if you look.
I was going through them at the time. There were some good ones.
Okay. James said,
a lot of soda pop talk.
I don't know if you got the memo, but from now we are going to require cover sheets on those FBI reports. So the problem, James, is that it's not legible if I were to crop all those, the top of the memos. I can definitely include them, but I'm trying to make people that view this on YouTube be able to read it. But all of the, of course, FBI documents I reference are from that date. Although I did have one wrong, so maybe that's what he's referring to, the November to whatever.
Real quick, Joe.
Yeah.
Tiny says, I hope Doug Campbell gets Carmine to send a letter to Tannenbaum about his infringement. The book is still in pre-order. Yes, but I will let you know there has been movement on this. And I believe it is good news. And hopefully those things shall be worked out very soon.
I'm confused. What does Carmine have to do with it?
Well, Carmine's very smart about all things.
That's true.
Yes.
That is true.
So there's good news there. So thank you to everybody that had reached out to Skyhorse on behalf and let them know. I don't know if we can disclose much more than that at this point legally, but just know that we did get some good news, and hopefully things will be changed before the release date of the book. It just takes a little time to do these things. So, all right.
Colleen says, I wish we could all meet up. We have a cool little group.
Right?
There is talks. Was it Jack or Jack was...
It'd be cooler if we all lived in the same town,
or country.
Well, yeah, I'm saying town.
Yeah.
We could just be like, all right, after the show, we're going to meet up at down at the pub and bullshit for another 3 hours, hang out.
Yeah. Well, how far away are you, sir, from the archives? Like an hour or two? A couple hours?
Yeah, roughly an hour or two. Probably an hour and a half, 2. I'm a slow driver, so about an hour and a half or 2. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that would be the likely one. Although I think Jack said it would be fun to like meet up in New Orleans and like kind of like walk the John Thomas Martin route and visit all these things. I think that was his idea.
New Orleans would be cool. But yeah.
Hopefully
DC would be cool. There's just not much to do there assassination wise, unless we had just stormed the archives and start demanding shit,
Yeah.
We can all wear our Davy Crockett attires, be like a mini January 6th, but at the archives.
Yeah.
We can go shit on the head archivist desk, play around with the Carcano.
Find the brain that's missing.
Yeah, we can do it all. Find Frasier's polygraph examination.
Yeah. The
Speaking of which,
JM wave report. But yes, let's get to your surprise, right?
Yes, let's. So, dear listeners, your boy, that would be me, Big Bad Bob, was approached some years ago. I believe at this point it was 8 years ago by author Russ Baker to contribute to his book. I was to possibly contribute a chapter or some kind of substance to it. But the more I got into it with him, the more I figured out that it was more of a I do all the work, he takes all the credit, and I have to sign an NDA type of thing. And I don't get compensated. So I politely told Russ Baker to go fuck himself.
Politely.
No, I pretty much told him to go fuck himself. But I did keep what I was working on back then. So I believe it's called a memo to form is what it's an MTF. So let me share with you folks, good folks, my screen.
What's an MTF?
I think it's a memo to form.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
I think it's been a long time since I gave a shit what an MTF is, but
it sounds right.
Okay, here we have Jack. Cover your ears for the next couple minutes. I don't want to make you mad, sir. Okay. So I was reading, writing this thing about Frasier. And I kind of laid it all out, right? As you can see, this thing's 16 pages long, but, and it was all about the inconsistencies in Frasier's story, and why I think he lied about a lot of different things. But let me get to the part that matters here. Okay. So this is an excerpt from Harold Norman's HSCA testimony. Okay. And they were trying very hard to establish that Frasier was giving rides to Oswald more frequently than he was letting on, implying that they were more friendly than he was letting on.
Right. So he's trying to distance himself. He's like, oh, I did it once in a while, but
he said I only did it when he went to Irving. Right?
Yeah.
Okay. So Maxwell, the investigator, is saying, was Frasier the guy that drove Oswald to work? Was he friendly with everybody in the place? Norman says, yeah. I think Wesley got along pretty well with everybody in the place. Maxwell says, and of all the people in the place, about the only man you think that was friendly with Oswald was Wes. And Norman says, well, I would say, I guess, because he rode to work with him. I don't know how many times he rode to work with him. Okay? And then he goes on, who was Oswald's boss or best friend in the building that you would think of? Norman says, I don't know of his having one. I don't. And Day says, did you know the man Oswald came to work with? And Norman says, yes. What was his name? Frasier. Okay. Then we got Junior Jarman's testimony to the HSCA. And they asked, during the time when he was working there, did you ever see him show any type of animosity towards anybody? Jarman says, no, he was just the average fellow to me. Then they asked, did you associate with any particular person there? Jarman says, no one, but I can't think of the dude's name. The one that brought him to work all the time. A fellow that worked with him? Yeah. Well, let me ask you one thing. You said you saw him sometime between 8 and 8:30 that morning for the first time. And then he goes on to say, Wesley, no, I don't even think he's here now. Did they come to work there together? Jarman says, yes, he always brought Oswald to work. And after that, you didn't see him anymore until you saw him on TV. Right. How about the fellow who worked with Oswald, the guy you said usually brought him to work? Did you see him the next day? And Jarman says, yeah, I saw him the next day. Okay. Then we have another employee HSCA interview from Edward Shields. Okay. Edward Shields says, if I'm not mistaken, I think he rode with Frasier every day that he worked there, if I could recall.
Yeah, and Shields was the guy that was with Givens during the shots.
Correct. Now, Shields was working at the other book depository, the state building.
Where they parked?
Where Frasier supposedly parked that morning, right?
Yeah. Okay.
And then he said, and earlier you said you recall that Oswald had worked there for about 6 weeks. He said, no, he worked there, or he worked there 6 weeks from mid-October to the November to the assassination. And then he says, now let me back up a little bit. Are you telling me that this fella said that somebody who worked in the book depository, the building down on Elm in Houston, hollered out the window and asked Frasier where was his rider? And he says, And he said, are you talking about the morning of the assassination? He says, I think it was, Mr. Davis, but I if I'm not mistaken, I think it was. And he said, well, how did you come about this information? He says, well, I was down on the floor when they hollered out and said, and the answer he gave him, I don't know. I think he said I dropped him off at the building. Now, whoever was hollering to him, I don't know. He said, this was the morning of the assassination. And he says, Somebody hollered out the window at Frasier and said, where's your rider? And to your recollection, Frasier said, I dropped him off at the building. Okay. And then he's asking him some more stuff. He says, how about Wesley? Wesley Frasier, right? You're correct. All right. He rode to work with him. Wesley Frasier, yes. And they would park their car right on Houston Street. Now listen to this detail, please, because I'm going to play you something here in a minute. They would park right on Houston Street and get out and walk to the building on Elm Street. All right, the day of the assassination, did you see Oswald come to work with Frasier? No, I didn't. Excuse me. They told him, or they told me that he let him out of the building. He did not come on the parking lot. You say they told you. Yeah. Who told you? Shields says Jarman, them, all the fellows that work there in the building. Okay. And he goes on a little further down and says that some of the other guys that were there, I think Charles Gibbons hollered out there and asked Frasier where was his rider, and he told him I dropped him off at the building, and that was it. You say you drove him to work. You used to see him in the parking lot? He said, yeah, he come by that parking lot. Did he drive him to work every day that you can recall or on certain days? I don't have the answer for that, but I believe he's already given it. Okay. And this is a little map. The red circle at the bottom here is where Frasier supposedly parked that day. Okay. Or no, I'm sorry. Yeah. No. Yeah, that's right. This is where Frasier supposedly parked that day. And the red circle at the top, okay, is the school book depository.
Okay.
So it was quite a distance. It was 2,250 feet, which is a freaking haul, Jack, to walk. So if it was raining that morning and Oswald had a package with him, you would think nice guy Frasier would drop him off at the building, so he wouldn't have to walk in the rain with his paper package, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is from where Frasier parked his car. And you can see the school book depository on Elm Street in the distance with the black arrow pointing to it. Okay? We call that the real-time view, Joe. Now, if you've read George O'Toole's book, okay, which is all about the PSE analysis, and it's kind of like a lie detector machine, but different. Its results are based upon vocal inflections and voice stress analysis, and Frasier didn't do very good on it. And I encourage everybody out there to read that book so you get a little bit better understanding on it. Now, this is when we were looking for the polygraph that Frasier supposedly took in Dallas. And according to the National Archives, okay, Buell Wesley Frasier polygraph was dealt with sometime between 92 and 98 during the Assassination Records and Review Board in the files of Thomas E. Samolak. Okay. These are textual records, creator of the files, access restrictions, restricted, possibly. Specific access restriction, JFK Assassination Records Collection Act, some materials may have been withdrawn for reasons of personal privacy or national security. Okay. More on the PSE machine from George O'Toole's book. Results determined Frasier was lying in a previous recorded statement and in an interview taped in the 1970s. That's the book, The Assassination Tapes. The line of thinking at least jives with what Gus Rose recalled about talking to Frasier earlier that evening about seeing Oswald that morning in No More Silence. The Larry Sneed book, Wesley said to me, I didn't think it was curtain rods, but I didn't want to argue with him. When we got to work, Lee got that package out, and I asked him, why don't we lock that under the trunk? And when we get off, you can get it. Oswald said, no, I need it here. Okay. This is according to Gus Rose. Again, 2 out of 4 Frasier's HSCA testimony tapes are so badly damaged they cannot be transcribed. The other 2 are barely listenable, but some interesting tidbits include Frasier talking about the military and this little nugget here, which I brought up on the show before, where Frasier says, no, I didn't know that he'd been caught, but I will tell you this, I knew that he hid the rifle. He did. And I said to myself, oh my God, that was the first thing right there on the steps. I also knew that I didn't want to get pulled in. Okay, that's an interesting nugget. They had asked him a question during his HSCA interview. You told the investigators that you were put in a police lineup with Oswald. About what time of night did this take place? And was it before or after you were called back to the station to take a polygraph? Okay, I don't think Frasier was ever put in a lineup. If he was, that's news to me. And then he said, they said that Frasier told the HSCA investigator that Oswald remarked then that he owned Dallas and that he said to you, you drove the car. Do you remember anything else about what went on during that lineup? So apparently there was a lineup with Oswald and Frasier in it together.
That would have had to have been Friday night, huh?
Yeah.
If it happened.
Yeah. And then he said, you drove the car.
I mean, that could have been a method to kind of squeeze Buell, right? In theory. It's like, oh, you're going to be put.
Well, not in theory. Like I've said, Joe, on this show before, that if Oswald had a package that day and it was a rifle in a bag, Frasier knew it was a rifle in a bag.
Yeah.
Okay. He was a hunter. He's a rifle owner. You know what a rifle in a case looks like. You know what a rifle in a leather case looks like. You know what a rifle in a plastic bag looks like. You know what a rifle in a paper bag looks like.
Yeah, broken down.
It's just a distinct, not broken down necessarily, but it's a rifle in a case or a bag. It's a distinct shape. It's a distinct length, right? And if he dropped him off at the building so he didn't have to walk, that's even more reason for Frasier to lie. Because if he would have knew that Oswald took a rifle in that building, and like I've said before, don't freak out, everybody. Just because Oswald brought a rifle into the building that day doesn't mean he was upstairs on the 6th floor shooting it at 12:30. Okay? That's not what I'm saying. So we go down, and I think that's about everything. I did have another couple tidbits, but maybe this is not the updated one. So there's that. Okay. Now, keep in mind what I just told you. From all these witnesses, including Harold Norman, Junior Jarman, Edward Shields, Charles Gibbons. Okay. This is lots of witnesses from people that work there that all say the same thing, that Oswald always rode with Frasier to work. Now, from Frasier's trip in from Irving, for him to pick up Oswald at the rooming house or probably near it, I would think that Oswald would not want Frasier to know where he was staying. Much like the cab that dropped him off a couple blocks away from his rooming house.
Yeah.
I would think that he probably met Frasier somewhere on the corner of somewhere and somewhere. And that this is also where Frasier dropped him off, right? Because he wouldn't want anybody at the rooming house to see him getting in the same vehicle every day either.
Yeah.
You know, because there's nosy people there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, very logical.
Especially if he's playing some kind of, you know, super spy game in his head or whatever the hell he thinks he's doing. Right? Yeah. But it was only 1 mile, a 1 mile detour, you know, for Frasier to pick up or drop him off from the school book depository. That's it. That's it.
Couple minutes tops.
Yeah. So it's not a big deal. And Frasier's a nice guy. Okay. He would have done this. He knows the guy doesn't have a car. Right?
Yeah. And
so,
he just got hired there a month before Oswald. Yeah. I think.
Yeah. And it's too far to walk from Oswald's rooming house to the school book depository. Okay. It's too far for him to walk. Oswald's too cheap to take a cab to and from there, right? Every day. I mean, that would negate the point of even working there, right? So if Oswald would have took the bus to work and home to work, or home from work every day, where's all the people on the bus, all these witnesses on the bus that rode to and from work every day with the alleged assassin of the president? Where are they at? Where's the bus driver that picked him up every day and took him home? Where are they at? They don't exist because it didn't happen. You know, if you ride public transportation every day to work, you generally see the same people, you know, because they're all using public transportation to get to work.
Especially back then.
Yeah, especially back then.
Yeah.
You know, you're polite.
You would know almost all of the people on the bus.
Right.
If you did it daily.
Yes, for 6 weeks.
Yeah.
Okay. But those people don't exist because it didn't happen. Now I'm going to play you something, an audio clip here, folks. And this is from another school book depository employee named Roy Lewis. Okay. And this is him from his own mouth, unprompted. He was being interviewed about something totally different. He was being interviewed about Prayer Man. Okay. And this is from, I believe, oh man, his name has escaped me. I wish I could remember who this is from. It wasn't Ed Ledoux, who I've had on the show before, has interviewed Roy Lewis, but this is not from his interview of Roy Lewis. This is from a different interview of Roy Lewis by someone else. But listen very carefully because he talks very fast. But listen to what he says. Okay, here we go. Turn it up.
Here we go.
That was my concept.
And then he went in part.
And then he went in part, right.
That's right.
Now, that's my concept.
That's right.
But I didn't see any of it. I can't say because I wasn't eyewitness to it, but he put him out in the bag. He's always put about. Now you said he only rode with him on weekend. He rode with him every day.
Really?
Monday through Friday.
Really? Mm-hmm. We didn't know that.
And he would bring him, but he would let him out at the back door. That's what I'm finna tell you.
I mean, that says it all, folks.
And he seems very confident about it.
I mean, it's different than seeing it on paper from 1, 2, 3, or 4 guys. This is the 5th one that says the exact same thing. And you heard him say it with your own 2 ears. He brought him to work every day. He used to let him off at the back door every day. He rode with him every day, which implies that him and Oswald, Frasier and Oswald, were a little bit more friendly than he's ever let on.
Yeah. Or that Oswald sleeping at Ruth Payne's in Irving wasn't as irregular as occurrence as they made out it to be, right? Oswald never came and spent a Thursday with Marina, right? Always would spend the weekend, blah blah blah, right? It could kind of.
I think Oswald was at his rooming house, and Frasier was picking him up and taking him home.
Right, I know, but I'm saying that helps that argument as well.
Yeah, but I'm gonna play it again because somebody said they missed the last part of it. So let me.
And then he went in part.
And then he went in part, right?
That's right.
Now that's my concept.
That's right.
But I didn't see any. I can't say because I wasn't. I would have said it, but he put him out in the back. He's always put him out. Now you said he only rode with him on weekend. He rode with him every day.
Really?
Monday through Friday.
Really? Mm-hmm. We didn't know that.
And he would bring him, but he would let him out at the back door. That's what I'm finna tell you.
There it is. You got 5 different eyewitnesses saying that he brought him to work every day, that he let him out at the back door. Okay.
Yeah.
And Frasier has been lying about it for all these years. All these years. And I understand why he did it back then. Because he didn't want to get caught up in this shit. And I get it. I get it. But at some point, dude, you're pushing 80. Give up the goat, man. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. It's the whole situation. I believe Roy Lewis is also an African American TSBD employee, right?
Do what?
Roy Lewis is also an African American TSBD.
Yes.
Employee. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it kind of fits into.
He was actually working there illegally. He was a little too young to be working there, but he was working there nonetheless. Turn says, and all of Frasier's observations about Oswald interacting with these children and how many picnics and shit did they share seem like friends, not just coworkers. Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, we just talked about the weather. Looks like a whole lot of rain today, Lee. Might have to put on my moccasins and trudge on over through the mud.
Exactly. And I have a couple comments started before we sign off because we're almost at 2 hours and 40 minutes. But Cammy says Frasier seemed a bit touched to me.
He's just a very simple dude. Like, he's a very simple country bumpkin type dude. And I think he was very naive and he got caught up in some shit. I mean, he was charged with being an accomplice to the murder of the president. They asked him to sign a confession. He was arrested, brought in, given a polygraph examination, you know? So, of course, I understand why he would lie about it, you know? Didn't really know him that well. Only gave him a ride back to Irving sometimes. We didn't really talk about much. You know, I get it. But at some point, man, at some point.
Yeah.
And this is why, Jack, I don't want him on my show because I'm going to ask the hard questions and he ain't going to answer them. So, anyway.
Yeah. A couple more comments here. Sally, we were talking about the meetup of the TLG fam. She's on Blue Sky if anyone wants a message or arrange some type of video chat. And also said she's around for a Zoom meetup. And also Scott Edwards said the same thing. And I'm thinking, Rob, that would be a cool thing to do on our members only. You know what I mean? Just like have anyone come up, chat with us. If you want to have video on, you can. If you want to have it blanked out, you can, and just like have a bullshit session.
I wonder how many people we can invite on here. I mean, this is kind of like a Zoom call. They could just follow the link in here. I just don't know how many people we can get in here.
I mean, we're gonna have
I'll do some checking because
spoiler. In 2 weeks we're gonna have 2 guests, and next week we're gonna have 2 guests on. So we will find out
at the same time. I mean, I'm sure it'll split us into 4, but I think I want to say we can have up to 20 people in here at the same time. I'm not sure though.
Yeah, I'm sure it's possible.
And we'll just do a free for all Friday and just we can rotate people in and out and try to get everybody on that wants to come on. And
that sounds fun. And whether it's members only, because not everyone wants to be on YouTube.
It should be members only.
Right.
And everybody, man, everybody that wants to come in should be able to come in.
Hey, I am down. I think that'd be fun as hell. And last one I had, are you suggesting LHO and Buell were doing the nasty? I don't think we were suggesting.
No.
But they were closer than what he.
Or probably more friendly. I'm sure they talk. I mean, you got to think. Okay, Frasier's this country bumpkin from bumfuck Texas, who hasn't ever stepped foot out of his hometown in 19 years. All right, doesn't know shit from Shinola, and all of a sudden you're stuck in this car giving this dude a ride to and from work every day, who at this point in his life has joined the Marine Corps, went to Japan, been all around the United States, lived in Russia, married a Russian woman, moved back to the United States. I mean, this dude's lived an incredibly crazy life by this point in time. And, Oswald's ego would have ate this shit up if Frasier's, you really, Lee? Oh, my gosh. You really went to Russia? Oh, my gosh. Oh, you married a Russian girl? Oh, my. Does she got all her teeth? I mean, how's this working? How's this all work, Lee?
Yeah, there would be, and of course we mentioned the 4 people we discussed and their comments, and they were all consistent of how Oswald kept to himself and kind of did his own thing and didn't talk to anyone unless necessary. But if you're getting the right to work,
you really went to Japan, Lee, with all them slaying people over there?
Right, but that's a different situation. If you're giving Lee a ride to work every day or most days or a majority of days, you're going to have some conversation. And as we've discussed, Lee is friendly if you're somewhat friendly to him and you can talk about some of the topics he's interested in.
And when you're stuck in a car with somebody and there's nobody else around,
right,
it would be hella awkward not to talk to him.
Right.
I mean, that's like, if I'm doing this guy a favor by taking him to fucking work and driving him out to Irving,
at least make some.
At least fucking talk to me, bro. You ain't just gonna sit over there and not say shit, or fuck you. Figure it out.
No, but to your point, it's Lee had been in Japan and the Philippines, Indonesia, Russia,
Mexico.
Yeah.
I mean, this dude's been around the world. Then, crazy life.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like it wouldn't have been so hard to drum up a conversation with him for sure.
Right, and like I said, Lee's ego would have ate that shit up.
Yes, I agree.
You know what I mean?
100%. 100%.
But
And let's see. We have, Sally said she'd be up for that. Just give her a warning so she could put on her face, which I think means makeup, which my girlfriend
well, I
says.
hope it's makeup.
I don't even think you need it, Sally. But yeah, I mean, it would be fun, and maybe we'll
Maybe
experiment.
Sally's really an alien under all that makeup. She just take her face off and be like,
Yeah. No, I think that'd be fun, Rob, and that's why.
yeah, I'm gonna check into it and see what we can do on here because that'd be kind of cool. Yeah,
that would be for sure.
Yeah.
So, all right, that's all the starred comments I had, sir. And since we are 2:45 in, I don't have anything else. But another banger. That's what we do. The bangers.
Yes, folks, thank you so much for hanging with us. It's always fun. Hopefully this was a good one for you. We got a good one for you next week, but tune in next Wednesday when you'll find out who we're going to be having on the show. We will reveal that next week on the Members Only show. If you haven't signed up yet, you're missing out. I'm telling you. You can ask all the members here if it's worth it, and they will tell you yes, it is worth it. Because we talk about all kinds of other shit that we don't talk about here. And you know they're full-length shows. There's no half-assing it for your boys. Okay, we give it to you. So check us out on.
We can't help ourselves.
That's right.
Yeah. We tried to actually limit it to an hour, and we are not capable.
Yeah, you get 4 extra shows a month. I mean, it's worth it. Trust me, they're good ones.
Yeah.
And like I said, we can talk a whole lot more freely on those shows because we don't monetize them at all. There shouldn't be any commercials in them at all. It's just for our members. So you can always upgrade your membership to be a covert operator if you're a spook, and check it out or join up and hang out with us. We have a blast. Just ask Trey; he'll tell you.
Yep, and we talk about current conspiracies as well.
Yep, all kinds of good stuff.
Yeah.
So with that being said, Dino, Ruby
is with Erica somewhere.
Oh my God!
I know she left.
That traitorous bitch.
I know.
I'm talking about the dog, not Erica.
I'm talking about Givens, but all the same.
Oh, bless her anyway.
Yes, bless her heart.
Let's dance about this bitch, Joe. You have to dance on your own. You can't make Ruby dance now. No hand puppet for you tonight, sir.
The greatest lies are told in the name of truth. The greatest crimes
Thank
are
you,
committed
guys.
in the
We
name
love
of
you.
justice.
We'll see you
The quotation is Jim
next
Garrison's.
Wednesday.
It could
Or
be
next
used
Friday.
for him or against him in this
Whichever
strange
you
case.
wish.
Good night.
I hear her scratching at the door.
I hear her scratching, but she can't come in. Peace.
Peace, guys.